Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chaseontwowheels here at Mountain Motorsports in Roswell, my favorite dealership because they had a used 2019 Kawasaki Z900RS, the Cafe model. Now, if you guys have been long-term fans of First Rides, you know about 3 years ago I rode the RS. I have not rode the Cafe yet, and I love the way this bike looks. I am super excited about this, guys. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Shout out to the guys over on Discord. If you guys don't know, we have a Discord channel. We are really pushing hard right now. So when I found out about this, I was having some conversations with the guys over there on our Discord about this model versus the 900, and we'll get into that in the first ride. But if you guys want to hang out with some other motorcycle people, feel free. Our Discord is totally free. There's going to be a link in the description down below. Hope to see you guys over there, and come say hey to us because me and the guys are hanging out in there all week. All right, let us get this going. Guys, that's what the bike looks like. That's what the bike sounds like. Now, before we get going, we're going to do an ad for Wreck Bike Rebuild real quick so we can pay for that sweet, sweet camera car footage, because why would we not on a bike like this? So we'll talk about Wreck Bike Rebuild, and then we'll get going, guys.
So, guys, this first start is brought to you by the Wreck Bike Rebuild Garage Patreon page. If you guys don't know, we run a show called Wreck Bike Rebuild Garage where we take wreck motorcycles, we take them into the shop, we rebuild them, and we turn them into the dream motorcycles you guys are looking at right here. If you guys want to sign up, you can do so for as little as $5, and part of that Patreon page is you get week ahead content, you get other posts that we do only to that Patreon page, and you get to help us decide what stuff we do to each of the dream bikes to build them. That top link down below will take you over to the page. Hope to see you guys there.
And here we are. Guys, thank you for sitting through the little ad spots. You guys that support us on Wreck Bike Rebuild, man, we would not be able to do the level of production that we do if it wasn't for y'all's support. So massively appreciate any of you guys that are able to support. What the hell is happening? We're going to pretend that didn't happen. All right, guys, 2019 Kawasaki Z900RS. I'm 5'10". I tell you guys every time. I got a 32-inch inseam. I've got flat-footed bent legs here. So, a solid bike for a shorter rider. Now, if I remember correctly, we do have ABS. We do have traction control. Let's do this thing, man. Let's get going. It is too hot to sit here and just talk. My goodness. All right, I'm not gonna sweat to death today, ladies and gentlemen. 2019 Kawasaki Z900RS Cafe. Chase can breathe in the air again, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, so we are here on a slightly used model. From what I understand, I looked around the bike. I didn't see any aftermarket modifications, so I'm pretty sure we're on a stock Z900RS Cafe, which is always cool. I can actually judge the bike for what it's supposed to be. And guys, like I said, I rode this thing about 3 years ago, and boy, when I was doing the research of how my first ride looked back then, they have come a long way. I'll have a link in the description. If you guys want to see what first rides used to look like, woo, don't judge me though. I'll have a link to the RS version of this in the description, so that way if you guys want to see what that bike is like, you can see that as well. And guys, the RS Cafe here is one of these kind of retro bikes. You know, every manufacturer calls them different. But it's basically a brand new bike that looks like an old bike. Yamaha's got their XSR, Honda's got their CB, Kawasaki's got their Z900RS. All of these bikes I love because if you are a customer looking for a motorcycle that's brand new or has low miles, but you still want the traction control, the ABS, and you want it to look like an old bike, that is now available, and I think it's absolutely awesome. I truly do love that these are in the market. I personally think they look really cool. I like all the kind of retro-y looking bikes. All right, guys, so let's talk about the ergos of the Cafe. I've got relatively relaxed legs right now. They are pretty much underneath me. My legs are only slightly bent up, and I've got a kind of medium aggressive lean going on right now. And for you guys interested in the differences between the Cafe and the regular Z900RS, the only difference is, from what I understand, different seat. These handlebars bend back a little more, and there's the big fairing up front. Obviously, everybody can see that big fairing. We all know about that. But the body position is a little different because of the seat and the handlebars. And, you know, my arms are kind of draped down right now with my slightly aggressive position. It's like the best of everything. With a Cafe bike, typically you're leaned way over, like Cafe racers are always like that. But this gives you the look of a Cafe, but doesn't give your back the pain that inevitably would come with basically laying over on a motorcycle. We're at a stop now. We are on a Z900 base, so let's lean this thing to the side. And, you know, here, just not going, the bike does feel pretty, yeah, it gets a little heavy on its side. So as far as not going anywhere, the bike's got a little weight to it. Now, the thing is, when we were just on the road a second ago, I didn't really notice the bike feeling really heavy. But, you know, when you're stopped, it is going to be something to keep in mind. The good thing is it does have a lower seat height. So, you know, you have those legs on the ground, or the feet on the ground control, in case that weight does get away from you. Looking at the cluster here, kind of like I said on the Z900R, just the RS, I love that this gives me old school vibes because it's an old school vibey bike. But then we get slightly futuristic. I would love for this to eventually be a TFT. And I would be totally cool if this was a full color TFT and they kept the old stuff. You know, if they were going to make like a 2021 model or something like that, I think that would be so freaking cool. You guys know I've talked about this kind of dash before. It's the same dash on my MT-10. I don't hate it. I get it. But I'm not a huge fan for it. I'm ready for all the bikes to get rid of dashes like that. Clutch has a really nice, easy pull. I like that. It's got a medium to light amount of weight behind it. And when I say weight, I mean like how much pressure it takes to pull the clutch in. I kind of like it. I don't want a like super heavy clutch. And I think this bike is more made to kind of ride around town. Your fingers will get exhausted if you had a really heavy clutch on here. But super light feel on the clutch. I'm here for that. I like the position I'm in. I feel slightly sporty, but you know, like I told you guys, it was heavy back there, not moving. But now when we're going, the difference of these handlebars and the weight, wherever the weight is, I feel like I have a lot of control with this thing, even if it is a slightly heavier bike. Look at this. And just throw this thing all over the place. I really like this body position that I'm in here. Coming to a stop here. Let's try those. Not a huge fan of the brakes. My goodness. Brakes feeling a little squishy, if I'm gonna be honest. It took a lot of squeezing to really get some feel out of the brakes. I do like that I have adjustable levers on both ends, so good job there. We've got the brake lever adjusted all the way out. And you can tell it takes a lot of squeezing to really get this thing back. I'm not a huge fan of that. But to be fair, we're not on a performance machine, right? We're more on a kind of casual machine. Just as a note, we do not have modes on this machine. So the mode you're in is the mode you got. There's some power for us. So guys, the power comes on pretty smooth, but one thing I'm noticing now that I'm stuck in traffic and trying to maintain a speed, the throttle seems to be a little twitchy. It either likes to be closed or open. It's kind of hard. It doesn't have a lot of space right there in the middle. If I just want to cruise, it doesn't really like that. I mean, I guess I could shift up some gears to smooth that out some, but you know, then I'm not in the power spot. I don't have that power available to me. So power comes on pretty well engine wise, but the throttle, I don't really like that. See, I have to be in third gear, going way slower than I need to be. If I'm in the gear what I'm supposed to for the speed I'm at, a little twitchy. Bike feels fine leaning it over too. Look at this thing. A little city slayer situation. Man, brakes would be the first thing I get on this bike. 100%. So guys, since we're stuck at a red light, I'm going to sweat to death. Might as well get this info out while I can. So one thing I was discussing with the guys over in our Discord was the difference between this, the Z900, which is, you know, Kawasaki's regular naked Z900, kind of in competition with the MT-09. And then the difference in this and the Cafe, like what's the Cafe, what's the RS, and what's the Z900. And from what I could tell, I already told you guys the difference in the Cafe and the regular Z900RS, but you might be wondering, is there a difference in the regular Z900 and the RS version? And from what I can tell, what Kawasaki has done is slightly modified the motorcycle, so where the RSs have they have a lower down amount of power. So mathematically, a Z900 is going to be faster than an RS model. And I would assume they did that to increase the comfort of these bikes, maybe make them more easily rideable or something like that. Sorry, I'm watching these cars. So you are going to get a couple less horsepower. I imagine, if I read that graph correctly, you're losing about maybe 5 to 10 horsepower going to the RS model. But I think that kind of makes sense, right? Otherwise, it would be kind of weird if these bikes were just as fast, because these bikes aren't really here to be fast, right? They're more here to be these like cool, have the cool look of the older models. So I like the fact that they're slightly tuned differently. And then I also see somebody getting one of these and spending more time in town. So I don't know if power is necessarily that important to somebody like that. Something that is important and a big differentiator between the Cafe here and the regular RS is this big old windscreen. Now for me, that gives this thing the iconic look that I love in a Cafe racer. It's got the bubble screen and the big front headlight. What that's going to also do is help you if you get on the highway. We're in a 900cc bike. We've got the engine to go. So the RS model without that, the wind protection is just nil. You know, it's none. So it's pretty cool that this is going to have a little more wind protection. I'm pretty excited to see how that changes for the highway, because with a 900cc engine, you've got enough, you know, easily able to commute, but that wind's not going to do you any favors if you don't have some sort of protection. So I think not only does the fairing up front on this model give you more wind protection, but it also extends the amount of riding you can do on this motorcycle. You know what I mean? If you got more protection, suddenly you can do more highway miles, and that just opens up the bike for more riding conditions that I wouldn't really prefer if I was on the regular RS with no wind protection. Taking a look at the controls up here, I kind of like how simple everything is. I will say these buttons look, it's like over here looks 10 years older than over here. Does that look like that to you guys? Does this look original to the original bike that looks like this, and this looks like a modern day Kawasaki? That's kind of funny. As long as they don't use those giant Honda buttons, I'm good. I find myself constantly getting in a higher gear on this bike because of that twitchy throttle. Like, I'm intentionally not riding in the gear that I really should be riding in based on where the power is and everything, because of that on-off throttle feel. I don't know what type of throttle this bike has. You guys know my first rides are more of me explaining to you guys how the bike feels. It's not so much about the technical aspects of the bike, but Bike sounds cool though. It's got a nice throaty sound. All right, highway time, baby. I am ready because it's hot today. All right, guys, let's get going on this highway entrance. I will remind you guys, this bike has no modes, and Chase is not stopping at that light. Sorry, light. We have no modes here, guys. We are on the only power mode it's got, which is turned on. Man, I gotta say, that fairing does a lot for this bike. Holy cow. There is no wind up in this entire general area, which is awesome. There's a lot of traffic here, and I'm not a fan. All right, man, a little cafe bike. Not a bad showing for the Z900 Cafe. Highway speeds, no problem, guys. We're looks like we're chilling in the 90s right now, and we are solid. I can actually feel the weight of the motorcycle in a good way. I feel stable here on the highway. I will say the suspension's bouncing around just a little bit, but nothing bad. Let's tuck in a little bit. There we go, fam. There we go. I'm good at 120. I don't need to go into 6th gear. I do feel the power drop off, guys. You know, we've got passing potential easily, but once you get up around that 8,000, 9,000, yeah, 6th gear. 6th gear really feels like more of an overdrive gear. Like a gear you just shift in just to lower the RPMs of the bike. I don't feel much power out of 6th gear at all, if I'm going to be honest. That's the nice thing. You put it in 6th gear, you put it at lower RPMs, get better gas mileage, and you just sit here and cruise on the highway. Now granted, I'm going 95. I'm going to slow it down to highway speeds. I feel good. You know, I feel the wind hit me about the top of my chest right now. But what a comfortable bike for the highway right here. If I needed to tuck in, I could, but I love this wind bubble that I have going on up here. If I needed to tuck in, wind just disappears in there. So as you guys can see, we're at 80 miles an hour, chilling at 5,000 RPMs. Bike's not screaming at you. I'm really digging this as a commuter bike. And you can thank that giant windscreen for that. Now, as I mentioned on the highway, guys, we do have a bit of a softer suspension, it feels, so I imagine we'll get to see if the bike wants to settle in this turn or not. Definitely not the super athletic monster that you might need it to be. Okay. Hold on now, fam. I take my statement back. This thing feels totally fine. Whoa, wouldn't have expected to hear all this. What? Look at this thing being aggressive. Oh, shoot. Brakes still suck. I am not here for the brakes, but wow. Man, color me impressed. I did not expect this bike to feel so good once we started pushing it. Good for you, Kawasaki. Holy crap. Call me surprised, man. That Kawasaki traction control, keeping that wheel down. I gotta say, guys, I'm impressed. Before we get into the performance aspects, let's jump to our camera car footage real quick and see what the guys in the camera car feel about this thing.
The Z900. This is the R or just the regular
RS Cafe.
RS Cafe. I like it. You know me. I like the kind of future retro. I like that those kind of bikes are coming back. It looks awesome. I hate that color. I'm not a fan of Kawasaki green, but I love bikes like that. It reminds me of like the Royal Enfield and things like that, where it looks like it's a blast from the past, but uses kind of modern technology.
So far, I'm really liking it. You know, same following on with what Bo said. It's like a Neo Cafe bike. You said it was a little bit twitchy on the throttle. How's that kind of panning out for you now?
Highway wasn't as bad. It definitely evens out, but
still a little twitchy on the throttle, more than I would expect it to be.
I really like the stylings on this thing, though. The bubble screen on it looks really cool with the retro mirrors. The Kawasaki green is definitely going to stick out, and people will be able to see it, so that's another plus for me.
All right, thank you, camera car people, and more importantly, thank you, Cardo, for supplying the best comms for motorcycles in the market. Guys, I gotta be honest, I want to be clear, the suspension does not feel like Olin's level or anything like that. The thing that surprised me the most is here on the street, and when I was on the highway doing, you know, more aggressive moves, the suspension felt a little soft. It would kind of like need to bounce around and settle. But once we got into that turn and we started pushing through that turn, the suspension felt way better than I expected it to. I'm not really sure what makes that happen, and it does look like we have adjustable suspension, so that's pretty cool. You can adjust it to your weight, you know, if you bought this motorcycle and you wanted it to perform in a certain way. It performed far better than I expected it to. That gets this bike to the point where if I owned this motorcycle, it might actually be enjoyable to take this thing up to the mountains and like really, you know, enjoy some riding in that way. So guys, something I just noticed, and it slowed me down talking a second ago. So far the transmissions felt pretty good. I get a moderately decent tactile feel when I shift gears, but I'm noticing that when I shift into neutral, for one, I get no feeling, and the bike almost just falls into neutral. Now, it doesn't literally fall into neutral without any input, but comparatively to the feedback that I get when I shift, it just feels lackluster when I go into neutral, and it takes way less energy as well. I really did not come into this first ride thinking this thing would feel as sporty as it does. Kind of digging it. I really thought this was going to be one of those motorcycles that if you try to ride it hard, it kind of feels worse the harder you ride it. That's not the case right now. I want to see this neutral thing. Yeah, look, miss neutral. Yeah, and I get no feedback. I don't like that at all. I don't like the neutral situation. I will say the bike seems to like to just kind of methodically go side to side. It seems to just do that better. Or that's how the bike feels good. Like it's not one of those bikes that just likes to get thrown into the corner. Kind of likes to be, you know, slowly moved together with you as a rider and motorcycle combo. I'm gonna stop before I run up on somebody. I like getting surprised on first rides, man. It's kind of my favorite part of a first ride. When I come into a first ride thinking a bike is going to be a certain way, and then it surprises you, because I would have never thought this bike would feel good, you know, pushing it a little bit. Any cars? Not that we can't outrun. Woohoo! Such a smooth power delivery. There is really no hardcore power band that I can feel. You know, maybe it is like if you go from a stop, but like just moseying around, just getting on it, I don't really feel a really strong hit of power anywhere. So very easy to ride this thing. That's kind of the power I would expect out of something like this. You don't want, you know, a really strong power band somewhere, because that's not the ideal market that I think this bike is going to be sold to. I think this bike is going to be sold to people that want just a really cool retro-y looking bike that they can ride around town and enjoy, and, you know, occasionally do some spirited riding with. I think that's who this bike is going for, but that's one of the reasons I'm so critical on the throttle and how the input is on it, because like right now, if we go into second gear, I can let off, I can that's go. You got to get a really good handle on that throttle to just maintain speed. And the bike doesn't feel normal being right here. You shift up a little bit, you get in fourth gear, and we're on cruise mode. Still steep, still on and off a little bit. Hey, another Z bike. I think it was a Z400. Even here, watch when the throttle kicks on. See? throws me back. I wish it was more gradual. I wish it didn't have that on-off tendency. Makes it hard to ride the bike smooth. But luckily, the power of this engine is a lot smoother than you would probably expect out of a 900. So makes it a little easier to ride in that respect. I guess we get kind of neutral, right? The throttle's a little twitchy, but the engine's smooth, so with no real hard-hitting power beam. While we're chilling here, I've got a comment on this seat, man. At first, when I got on the bike, I was a little worried that it was a little too soft. But now that I've spent some time on this seat, I love the way it feels. It's also big enough to where I can kind of move around and get in a really comfortable position. I think this bike has just been kind of modified to be a more comfortable city riding bike than the Z900. You know, the Z900 gives you your more power, and it gives you that more aggressive looking motorcycle. Whereas this, you can get all the retro vibes out of it, and you can have a smoother, more comfortable ride in general than you would on the Z900. So it kind of differentiates the customer that Kawasaki's, you know, offering these bikes to. It makes it pretty obvious who's going to get what. Going these lower speeds, you can start to feel how heavy the bike is, but once you get to going, you know, what are we at right now? Like 20, 15, 20. Once counter steering kicks in, you kind of, the weight just kind of melts away. So, but yeah, loving the seat, loving this overall ride, honestly. Just other than the few little things I wish would have changed, I'm really digging this bike, man. All right, guys, time to pull off and do a little walk around of the bike. I know we've already seen what the bike looks like, but this thing looked too pretty to not do another little walk around. We got a cop in the parking lot today. What up, fam? We love cops here, don't we? We love them. They keep everybody safe. God, going from neutral to first is like, go! Alright, we'll pull in over here and we'll get this thing turned off and walk down. Ah, I hate neutral. I hate it so much. Not a fan of it at all. Alrighty, guys. 2019 Kawasaki Z900RS Cafe. That is basically what makes it that cafe. And bro, look at the looks on this motorcycle. It is so good. I would literally do nothing to this thing. I even love the chromed out headers and exhaust. The green is just so good. The seat, I love everything about this bike. If I bought it, I would not change it at all. Maybe I would put a fender eliminator kit on it. That's probably it. You guys can see we got a little ABS in the rear. Got ABS on the other side, I imagine. Yup. We also have LED front light. Again, that kind of futuristic with old school. It's got everything it needs. You know, looking over this bike, honestly, dude, I don't think I would change much. Actually, I don't think I would change anything. I would literally buy this bike and just own it other than the fender eliminator. The lines look cool. You get these bubbly, kind of curvy lines. It looks so good. Speaking of looking good, guys, I'm going to get a photo of this thing. And if you're asking yourself, Chase, what are you taking a photo for? I am taking a photo for our Instagram page. @C2WPics is us on Instagram, guys. I highly recommend you going and following us. We post all types of first ride photos, just like the one I just took. So go follow us over there if you want to see photos of our first ride stuff and behind the scenes of all the shenanigans the guys in the shop and I get into. Guys, I'm going to be honest. It's too hot to sit here and walk around this motorcycle. I am burning up, so we are going to get this thing going. And now that we're clear on how cool I look while riding it, we can go. Granted, you guys have known this because you have been watching the camera car the whole time. So shout out to the guys over in the camera car getting all that beautiful bean footage. Alright guys, 2019 Kawasaki Z900. So, the question is, who is this bike for, man? One, I really feel like you got to appreciate the looks of this motorcycle. It would be a disservice if you weren't a fan of this bike, the way it looked, to pick this thing up. You've got to be one of those people in that retro headspace. And if you're looking for a retro looking bike that has all of the current day rider aids, this thing's got traction control, it's got ABS, it's going to keep you a little safer, and you're looking at a brand new bike that's got, you know, all of the brand new tech in it. It's also a Kawasaki, it's going to last for a while. So I really feel like if you're into the retro bikes, you could totally pick this thing up. And with a 900cc engine, it's going to power you through a lot. I do feel like you'd need to be okay with that super linear power band. The one negative about it is it's not going to make you feel like you're going really fast. Now, as you guys saw on the first ride, like once you start pushing this thing, it actually feels fine. But with that linear power band, you're never going to get that hit of power that makes you feel like, oh man, I'm just going so quick. I do wish the brakes were a little bitier. You might be able to get a different set of pads for this though. And, you know, maybe you get a bitier set of pads that can slow you down a bit quicker. That and the throttle input those are my two kind of main downfalls. But as you guys have seen in this first ride, all you really have to do, if that throttle really bothers you, all you do is shift up a couple gears and it mitigates how bad it feels. Now, it doesn't make it really go away, but it does get a lot better if you shift up a couple gears and you kind of ride higher in the gears than you need to. But that can solve your problem and doesn't cost you anything. So just stuff to keep in mind. Overall, guys, I gotta say, this bike has not disappointed. It's actually surprised me. I've loved every second of riding on this thing. You know, is it perfect? Absolutely not. But you tell me one motorcycle that's perfect right now and I will be shocked. So Kawasaki, nice freaking job on this. I will say the Cafe versus the regular version, I liked this model way more than the RS. I love the Cafe look, so that kind of pushes me towards that. But I also like this slightly more aggressive body position as well. And guys, as we come to a close, I want to give a shout out to my buddies over at Mountain Motorsports. If it wasn't for them, I would not get to do all of these first rides for you guys. If you guys are in the market for a motorcycle here in the North Georgia area, I'll have links to Mountain stuff in the description down below. There's also, you can get a discount if you go down there and you buy from Mountain. There's like a first ride special discount. So if you guys want to save some cash on your bike, make sure to check that out. And guys, I appreciate you riding around with me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button so I know to make more of them. And subscribe if you like motorcycle content. I'm Chaseontwowheels. I'll see you on the next one. Later. And if you're still watching the video, guess what? That means you are part of the outro crew. So here's what I need you to do. Since you're part of the outro crew, you get to see cars cut me off. Let's see if they get in the other lane. They don't. You failed. Outro crew, what do we think about Neo Cafe, Cafe, Retro, whatever you want to call them? What do you guys think about these older or brand new bikes that look older? I am totally here for them, but I'm curious what you guys think. So when you guys comment down below, because you're going to comment down below, obviously, make sure to put OC in your comment. That stands for Outro Crew. That's how I know you guys get to the end of the videos, and that means I love you longer. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Are you guys here for the older bikes that give you all the traction control and the ABS, but they look old? I think it's a good combo. I appreciate you guys getting to the end. We'll see you on the next one. Later.